I'm Jeannine Hedberg, and again, it's my joy to welcome everyone here today, everyone who's online, to this discussion of the first agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz. We talked about some of the preliminaries last week, and this agreement is what all the rest of the agreements are based on. So this is the biggie. This is the big one that to get our arms around. And as Gary read this morning, it is to be impeccable with your word. Now, with this being Father's Day, I'd like to talk about a word. I had a wonderful father. He's been gone for several years, but I learned how to make ice cream, crank ice cream from him. I learned how to rake the yard. I learned we had a coal furnace, how to take the clinkers out of the coal furnace when I was growing up. And he tried to teach me to drive. I flunked that driving test 3 times. I didn't get my driver's license till I graduated from college. Anyway, but my dad was a wonderful, wonderful dad. But just as Jesus spoke of God as, in the Bible it says Father, he really called him Abba, which means daddy or papa. We all have a masculine energy and a feminine energy. And it's that coming together and that balance of the masculine and feminine that is our word as it goes out into the world. So I bless everyone who may be raising a child as a grandparent and doing both of those roles. Same-sex couples who may have children they're raising, and they're providing both mother and father energy to those wonderful children. So we all have that energy, and we bless everyone for that energy. So again, thank you for being here. Can't wait for the donut. Just one donut, can't wait for the donut. Now, the first agreement, be impeccable with your word. It's more than being truthful. It's more than not lying. Impeccability is larger, is much, much larger. It's simple, but it's the most powerful agreement of the 4 that Don Miguel Ruiz will be talking about as we go through the next 3 weeks. Now, as Gary read, the word is a gift from God. And here in Unity, we talk a lot about the word and the power of the word. And from the Gospel of John 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word is God. In Unity, we study a metaphysical meaning to the words in the Bible. And that means the meaning underneath them. And here in Unity, we know the Word as the Christ, the ideal of God. It's what's on our path as we walk down our path. We're all on paths. And as we walk that path, that's the first destination. To live as the Christ, to live as the perfection of God, the love of God, the joy of God, and to know that oneness with God. That's how powerful the word is. It is the Christ. And if we can bring the Christ into all of our use of the words, our lives will change. So it is the way that we express our creative power. We have an idea, we give intention to that idea, we voice that idea, and we bring it forth into the world. And we bring it forth into the world with energy and passion and zest and zeal and enthusiasm. We can also have agreements that we bring into the world with anger and hurt and fear. And those will manifest something very different. And so as we spoke last week about letting go of the agreements we have personally that are fear-based, that I'm not enough, that I'm not pretty enough, that I'll never have a family. Whatever the fear is, to let go of those fear-based agreements and to come into agreement simply with being impeccable with our word. Now, every once in a while, someone in Unity or somebody outside of Unity will tell me, Unity is just candy coating everything. You really don't solve any problems. And I want to let you know that this is not candy coating. These techniques, when we bring our hurt into the light that the word gives us, we can release, we can forgive, and we can let go of those agreements that are fear-based. So what this is a deep, deep technique. I won't say it's not without pain, but I think if we look at Jesus' life, he didn't have a candy-coated life. But what did he accomplish? He became the Christ and lived as the Christ. But his life was not candy-coated. Ours is not either. The challenges that we have in life actually lead us forward. We solve things and we go in new directions. So I believe unity teachings, and this teaching especially, changed my life. Oh, I think it was the second year I was here. And unfortunately, I follow it and then I'll forget it. And all of a sudden, my life will be kind of going topsy-turvy. And it's like, you know what? I'm not remembering this one piece, to be impeccable with my word. And being impeccable, again, means more than not lying. Lying is a piece of it. But impeccability comes from, it's a Greek word, peccatus, and it means sin. Now, here in Unity, we know that before the Latin, there actually was a Greek word, and the Greek word was hamatia, and that means to, in archery, to miss the mark, to not miss the center of it. So here in Unity, we look at this word, sin, as just missing the mark. It's not a mortal sin. It's not something we go to hell for. It's just missing the mark. And what do we do if we miss the mark? We readjust and we aim and we go again. We don't give up. And so that's where the word is coming from. And then the im means without. So without sin, without missing that mark, that we're true to the direction we're going. And that's the biggest thing is not the impeccability of our word with others. That's very important. But the impeccability of our word with ourselves. Because if we can say and be truthful to ourselves, we can release so many of the agreements that we've made that are based in fear. Because when we have our word and we say, this is what I'm creating a world without sugar. That's a good example. I'm creating a world without violence. I'm creating a world without anger in my life. I'm coming at challenges and solving them in a different way. Those are all intentions that we have to bring into our life. And yeah, sugar is one of mine, so we'll work on that one. Now, the biggest sin that Don Miguel Ruiz talks about is that sin, that missing the mark with ourselves. Because as I shared last week, all knowledge is really self-knowledge. All love is our love for ourselves. And as we can step into that place of knowing that we love ourselves unconditionally, we fill up that well within ourselves. And from the overflow, we give to everyone. And that is what being impeccable with your word means, that you are full of love and full of joy, and that the agreements you have with yourself are based on love. They're not based on put-downs. They're not based on making yourself out to be wrong. And so that's the change, that when you can adopt this being impeccable with your word, with the word of God, which is your word, then life changes. As Gary said, we can create heaven on earth. Now, loving words create love. Non-loving words can create non-love. And what we work to do with this agreement is that we bring words of love and peace and joy and all of the wonderful attributes we want to create in our life into our words. So the words I say in the morning as I'm brushing my teeth, or the words that I say in my prayer in the morning, are words of love, are words of embracing the truth of who and what I am. Just as important as that is that the word gets excited. The word gets additional power from a couple of things. And those things are one of the reasons I love being up here on platform with our wonderful music team. Because when you take words, good, godly words, and you add vibration, you add rhythm, and you add energy and passion to them, they are so strong. And so one of the best techniques that Don Miguel talks about is in the morning, sing. Sing while you're in the bathroom, but don't sing those really bad love songs, you know. Sing these wonderful songs that Amy and Jesse and the team sing. Sing, I am so blessed. In the morning, set yourself up for that wonderful life and the wonderful use of your word. I've even stopped listening to the radio in the car because the songs that I hear in my ear are telling me, oh, love is bad, and somebody broke my heart, and oh, isn't the world a terrible place? And I don't believe that. So I listen to instrumentals now, the Spa Channel, things like that. But I really work at the words that I put in my ears. And I make sure that those words are words that I want to have come out of my mouth, and I want to shape my life. And so, again, I just want to thank Amy and Jesse, Lynn, Brian. The music that you bring forward is the Word of God. It is the Christ brought forward with such passion. And you're such a blessing. So thank you so much. Now, what I've done in my work, because I still work, and is I've brought words into work. And so now instead somebody says something to me and I always say, that's marvelous. Gosh, that's wonderful. That'll be really great. Let's work on that. Instead of saying, oh, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard of. But what happens is when I express that an idea came in, and then I'm going to say, let's work on it. It's marvelous. Let's round the edges. Let's make it work. Let's find out what the core of that is. That's how we bring about our word in business. That's how we bring about our word in community. That we don't ever say to someone, oh, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. All ideas have value. And so it's in bringing our heart, our love, the magnificence of our word to that we make that word as powerful a force as it can be. The Word of God is the force in the world in creating our world. Now, I told you a little story about last week about being a child, and sometimes as a child, you learn to tell little white lies. They're not so little, they're not so white, but they're lies. If one doesn't feel protected or have a place of protection, we can start to tell little half-truths. And so with this agreement, we stop that behavior. We no longer tell half-truths, even to make someone feel better. We stand in our magnificence. We stand in this place of knowing our truth. And with love, respond to people. Whether that's with, that you're getting anger directed at you, a question that doesn't make any sense, someone being mad at you. When we can respond with the integrity, the impeccability of our word, we change that whole situation. And so that's been the biggest thing that I've learned from embracing this first agreement, this first truth principle, as we would call it in unity. And when we can take this agreement and apply it to our life, we are no longer telling those half-truths. We are no longer saying something to protect ourselves because we know that the truth is what protects us. So as I've stepped out in business and can bring these principles into a business, my life has changed. People will say, well, you always say wonderful, or you always say marvelous. Is it really? I said, yep, sure is. And it may not be in that moment, but that's where we're going with that idea. That's what we're working to embrace. And that's what I see in the business that I'm in other businesses, that we're here to embrace these truth principles. And as we do that in our lives, in our businesses, as I said last week, we bring everyone with us. The entire world is uplifted every time we take a step upward with these truths. Now, when we use our words consciously, not just answering flippantly to someone, but consciously taking a breath when someone says something to us and we say, I may not know the answer, but I'm going to come at it from love. I'm going to open my heart. Listen with the ears, as Gary said, the ears of my heart. Look with the eyes of my heart and speak with the words of my heart. That is what it means to be impeccable with our word. And that's how our word will change our lives for the better. Have you ever gotten out of bed in the morning and stubbed your toe in the bathroom? I used to do that, and it would make my whole day terrible. My toe is hurting, and I'm limping, and it's like everything is terrible from that moment on. And with this agreement, we know that pain is there, but it doesn't influence our day, the way that we approach people, the way that we approach challenges, the way that we approach our lives is not made negative by things that happen to us. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I learned ever so many years ago by embracing this agreement to live impeccably with our word. And what happens is that all of a sudden we develop a level of trust with others. People understand that that's where we're coming from. They can trust the word that we say. We will show up and do something. We will support them. We will say a prayer for them. We will embrace them with love. People come to learn that. And I believe that's what we have here in this wonderful community. As we live in this place with the impeccability of our word, we just keep walking down a path to glory, to living as heaven on earth. Then the easiest way that we teach here at Unity is that we use words of truth. And we use I am words. I think you've all heard the story about I am is the name of God. But what we say after I am defines who we are. And when we say things like I'm sick, I'm fat, I'm unlovable, that defines who we are. And so what I'm suggesting is that in impeccability with our word, we start to talk about words of truth. I am the light of God. I am the love of God. I am whole and complete, lacking in nothing. I live as the prosperity and abundance of God on this earth. Those are the statements that will change our life. Those are the positive affirmations that we teach here at Unity. And that's a huge piece of being impeccable with our word. Now, how do we measure if we're successful? That's always the question. How do we know that we're going to be successful? And I believe that it comes from us recognizing what is our level of self-love. What is our level of self-love? Because as we stress that we can't give love that we don't have. So as we love ourselves, as we let others love us, and we fill our well of love, we're able to give that love. And self-love is, I think, what Don Miguel Ruiz is saying, that's the biggest measure to know that we're living with this agreement. We're living with this agreement. We're letting go of our agreements that are based in fear. And we're standing as the Christ on our path. It's just a wonderful, wonderful teaching. And if we can put it into our tool belt, look at it every day, come back to it throughout the day, this will change our lives. It has changed my life. I've gone from being very, very sad and very upset and getting angry all the time because things didn't go my way, to really most of the time being a pretty happy person. And knowing that I do live as God here on this earth plane, and I am creating heaven here on earth. I'd like to invite the music team up, and just close with part of the reading that Gary talked about. Just imagine what you can create with impeccability of the word. With the impeccability of the word, you can transcend the dream of fear and live a different life. You can live in heaven in the middle of thousands of people who may be living in a version of hell because you are immune to that hell. You can attain the kingdom of heaven from this one agreement. Be impeccable with your word. Thank you so much. It's been such a joy to share this with you this morning.